Hamilton then leads the US Grand Prix. He's stretching away from Max Verstappen. Perez third, then comes Leclerc, and behind him Carlos Sainz under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo trying to get in the slipstream, but he touched the back of the Ferrari and had to just drop back a bit.
So Mercedes is one of the teams that has switched its focus the earliest when it comes to the 2023 season. Now this is mostly because they didn't understand the 2022 technical regulations properly, and the W13 has struggled a lot with porpoising and bottoming out. Due to the fact that this problem doesn't have an easy solution or an easy fix, the team has switched its focus to the 2023 season. Now what they're planning is something that will definitely shock you, but rest assured the team will be back in the championship fight sooner rather than later. So what are the novelties in Mercedes? Well, before we talk about the 2023 season, we need to elaborate on what happened in the 2022 season and how the most troublesome car that exited production at Mercedes managed to be a very useful learning tool for the Brackley-based team. Mercedes decided to enter the 2022 season with the innovative no-pod sidepod design, something that everybody thought was a season-over move before the season even started. However, the sidepods didn't really do much for the W13 when it came to speed and aerodynamical prospects. On top of that, the team has struggled a lot with the speed of its own engine, and the straight-line speed deficit has been truly enormous compared to Ferrari and Red Bull in particular. So the team understood that nothing much could be won in 2022 except for the P2 spot in the Constructors' Championship and probably a decent finish in the Drivers' Championship, given the fact that they were much slower than Ferrari in the first half of the season. So according to Andrew Shovlin, there have been many things that they were able to learn from the 2022 version of the car, and they'll implement these solutions in the W14 or the 2023 version of the Mercedes F1 car. George Russell is also very confident in the direction that Mercedes is taking when it comes to developing the W14, adding, "I'm confident that the direction we need to take is the correct one. We have a philosophy that we're going to be trying to adopt in our development, and I'm very confident that's the correct one. But equally, it doesn't mean that we can necessarily achieve it. We have a target, and that is a massive positive in itself. As I said, we have a clear target we're trying to chase. Now, can we achieve that? I have every confidence that we can. We obviously don't know how much the other rivals are going to improve over the winter, but I definitely have confidence that we will have a more complete car across the circuit ranges into 2023. But what's even more interesting is the fact that Russell has said that circuits like Spa, Zandvoort and Monza really helped the team understand what was wrong. Although Mercedes thought that the new regulations that will be introduced in Spa will make their rivals much slower, this didn't see the light of day as Red Bull were able to absolutely dominate all of the races. To be honest, it's data driven. We've done a lot of analysis on the races in which we've been competitive and the races in which we've been slow, trying to understand why that was. And I think we managed to get quite a grasp on that and understand why at certain circuits we were so much more competitive than others. We've only managed to learn that over the course of these races. And I think that triple header after the summer break was quite telling for us, and with our performance swings between the low downforce and the high downforce circuits. What Mercedes understood is that the DNA needs to be completely changed on the car if they want to see results in the 2023 season. This is something that many Mercedes fans have hoped for, given the fact that the team didn't really present any results in the 2022 season. It's the first season that's threatened to be a winless one since 2011, and that's something that Mercedes will push hard to not happen in the last two races. Nevertheless, the team's focus is majorly on the next season, and according to Wolff, it's not going to be easy understanding what's wrong and implementing solutions to the W14. To turn the ship in this industry is a little bit like turning an oil tanker. First you have to understand what the root cause of your non-performance is, and then you have to peel the various skins off. What is the first layer? What is the second layer? Are we really on top of all the questions? And the answer is no, we're not. But I think a big chunk of the performance that we're missing, we've discovered. It's not something we can change this year, it's decisions that we made for next year. But I'm not 100% confident in saying that here next year we'll be fighting for the World Championship. The aim is, the expectation is, but there is still work to do. But what is Mercedes planning to implement? Obviously they'll stick to the no-pod sidepod design because if they choose to go with another solution, they'll be pushed back further down the grid, as Wolff said. But changing the philosophy doesn't mean that you're going to change the way the car looks. It's likely that Mercedes is going to change the way the car operates and the way the car works with the new regulations of an increased diffuser throat and an increased ride height. This is something that the team has been very pushy to achieve due to the heavy porpoising they suffered in the 2022 season, and with them being successful in their quest, we expect to see a much more competitive car on the grid in 2023. Nevertheless, Russell spoke about changing the sidepod design, and although he did say that they're going to likely stick to this design, he mentioned that nothing is off the table and that they are rethinking it. I think nothing is off the table. For sure, we've got a pretty unique design with the sidepods. It's not out of the question that we will continue with that design, but it's equally not out of the question that we will completely change our philosophy. But ultimately, whether we have the wide side pods or the narrow side pods, that isn't the performance differentiator. There's more to it. Still, Russell was really careful when it came to revealing too much of a detail, saying that the last thing he wants is to put his team in jeopardy due to the fact they have a competition they need to care about, adding, "I don't want to go into too much detail because it's something that we worked very hard on to understand and hopefully will give us an advantage into next year. So I don't want to say anything that will potentially benefit our rivals, but at the end of the day, every single car is different. I have to say, I've mentioned a couple of times this year that I feel like we've understood our car and we're on the right track, but we've been set back with a couple of oddities that we weren't expecting. But I think we've had enough races now that we've gone through so many different scenarios that I can't really imagine there's going to be another one that catches us by surprise. We've had the porpoising issues, we've had the ride issues, we've had the car touching the ground and damaging the floor issue. Now, Mercedes has 2 races only to prevent 2 negative records from seeing daylight, with the first one being the team's first win this season from 2011 onwards, and the second one being Hamilton's first win this season of his career. Both of these records are going to leave a huge mark on Hamilton and Mercedes' careers, and that is something that the team will not be happy to see. Still, Wolff was asked about whether he would want to achieve P2 in the Constructors' Championship, a battle that is still ongoing with Ferrari as Mercedes follows with 40 points behind, or a win a race in the remainder of the season. The Austrian was really determinant in his answer, saying, "A win. The win would prove that our team is back in the fight for wins. Finishing P2 could also be because others dropped the ball and you're scoring more points. On the simulations, it says that Mexico was our best chance to win this year. But we see the tendency that we're able to compete, and I'm really proud of the team for what we did this weekend. We experimented with a lot of things. The engine guys pushed the boundaries to really give us maximum performance, so I think it will be a mix between trying to maximize this year and trying to do the most next year. I'm never confident, I always see the glass half empty, so there really is nothing to see that's positive. There's no reason to be overwhelmed after finishing 2nd and 4th, but we have a long way to catch up." So, with that being said, what do you think about the upcoming season for Mercedes? Let us know in the comments below.